Record. All right, we're going to start from right now. First of all, let me welcome all of you to Net Impact's first event of the year, which is very exciting. We're going to be featuring, as you heard just speak, George Brigandi, the new director of the Masters in Sustainable Management program. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about just what is sustainability, our organization, and then the organization, the Coleman Entrepreneurship Center, which is co-hosting this event. And then give George a little chance to talk about himself and his background, and then ask away. Anything you want to know, you get to find out here. So sustainability, here you see the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So sustainability is mostly focused on trying to provide, equity in a variety of ways to all humans all over the world. There are many different ways to define it, from environmental sustainability to health and wellness sustainability, and as well as, peace and social justice, social responsibility. So those are all elements of what Net Impact as a national organization works on, as well as what we are focused on in our chapter. So what in the world is happening in Chicago as far as sustainability goes? So we have Chicago Water Week, which you just heard a little bit about, that George is, of course, a big part of. There is a virtual conference coming up at the end of October that's going on with sustainability in mind, which I highly recommend, and I plan on attending as well. And here is what Net Impact is up to. So we are at DePaul, we are focused on a platform that you can engage with, and networking and career opportunities, as well as educational opportunities about sustainability, positive impact in your work and in your studies, and also how to be more sustainable at DePaul and really express Vincentian values through our work as students, and then in the city of Chicago and our professional lives after we graduate. And I think one of my main goals, and one of any of our goals, is just to try and educate and provide opportunities for individuals, students who are interested in having more impact in their careers and how they can get started doing that. And these are our events. So this is our first open hours event, but we will be hosting more. You'll have more opportunities to speak with more wonderful professionals. We're also planning in November a Women in Social Sustainable Business panel, where we will speak with 4 different female leaders in sustainable business and hear about their backgrounds and experiences, and be able to ask them some questions about, how they got to where they are, and of course, tips and advice for entering into a career in sustainability. And then either at the end of this quarter, in the middle between the 2 quarters, or early next quarter, we plan a networking event. Hopefully we will get a lot of sustainability professionals so that students can network with them, meet them, get their face and their faces, and start the process of finding opportunities for work in that sector. You can also find us on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn group, a private group, so please search DePaul Net Impact on LinkedIn. And then you can also find us on Instagram. And we are also on DHub, if you guys aren't on there. So you can do dhub.campusgroups.com/DNI to find us there. And I am Virginia. I should have introduced myself first, but I didn't. I'm Virginia. I'm the president of Net Impact. And Tegan Andrews, who couldn't make it today, is our vice president. And then also here with me is Lillian Murphy, our director of marketing and social media.
Hi.
And Jenya, who is our director of events.
Yes.
So that's us. That's our whole bag. And then Aparna is here to introduce the Coleman Entrepreneurship Center, our partner in this event.
Thank you, Virginia. Hi, everyone. So Coleman Entrepreneurship Center is so happy to partner with Net Impact on these events. As you know, Coleman Entrepreneurship Center is under Management Department at DePaul University. We organize events for students, alumni, faculty and staff, and also community members. We organize events related to entrepreneurship and some of the topics being sustainability. So we're happy to partner with Net Impact. I'd like to mention one upcoming event during the Chicago Water Week that George mentioned. That's on September 29th. It's called Water in the Third World with Mike Mantel and Bruce Leach. That comes under the Chicago Water Week event. So please, if you need any more information on that, reach out to us, or you can even read about it on the Chicago Water Week website. So yeah, I'm the Associate Director, and I should have mentioned that before too, Virginia, but Associate Director at Coleman Entrepreneurship Center. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. If you have any questions, you can find us on DHub. You can message us anywhere. We're around. We love to hear from you. There we go. So moving on to the main event, George Brigandi. So George Brigandi just this year started as the director of the Masters in Sustainable Management program. He's also the, as he spoke about, the Partnership and Development Manager at Current, and has also worked with Urban Rivers, an environmental startup, which featured the Wild Mile, the world's first mile-long floating eco park. So he has a background in social entrepreneurship, and now, of course, is a leader at DePaul as well. And so we are so thrilled to have you here, George. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Ginny. Can I ask first, are there any more slides after this, or can we go to like the screen share view where I can see everybody's face? Because I would love to see that instead of just my talking head.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have like a little bit more interaction.
And tell us about yourself, and
definitely.
Then we can move on to questions.
Perfect. Yeah, I love these informal style conversations and talks. All right, so where to start? I earned my undergraduate degree at Purdue University in anthropology and history. Growing up, I always had a passion for history and anthropology. And for those of you who are not aware what anthropology is, it's basically the studies of human culture and society. In my early years, really through those studies, came to appreciate the differences in us, in people. And quickly realized that there's a lot of good out there, but not enough of it, especially from a business perspective. So that, and I've always had a passion for the environment. So the seed was planted early on for sustainability, if you will. I was young, I had no clue what the hell I wanted to do out of my undergraduate degree, frankly. I have a lot of family in marketing, and I knew that my skill set to that point was very applicable in marketing. You know, marketing in its essence is trying to tell a story and to convince someone, a consumer, to purchase a product or service. And what you frequently have to do is understand different trends and buying patterns of groups of people. So I went into a general marketing career for about 5 years at a few different agencies and companies, more recently at Beam Suntory. If any of you drink, they are the manufacturer of Jim Beam and Knob Creek and Skinny Girl and all of these ginormous brands, which are very tasty. No worries if you don't indulge, that is completely cool too. But at my time there, I came to the realization that I liked the work I was doing, but I didn't love it. And that's when I kind of had a moment of self-reflection of, you know, how can I utilize my experience and skill set to this point to do good and to do something I give a damn about. And that's where I came across this thing called sustainability. And let me also rewind. When I graduated from my undergraduate degree about 10 plus years now, if you were interested in doing any sort of environmental work or social work, there was not, like, sustainability wasn't really a thing. The closest you could probably come was something like an environmental a science or analytics role at a company, or go work in the NGO space. So I decided to go back once I started to learn more about just sustainable business to get my MBA at DePaul in sustainable management and entrepreneurship. And I paired the two with entrepreneurship, or I paired sustainable management with entrepreneurship, because I knew that basically this was a super young sector. It still is probably the youngest sector of any. And wherever I went, be it a Fortune 500 company or a startup, I was going to need to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I was going to need to have a holistic understanding of business if I wanted to figure out how to implement sustainability, whatever the case, into their model. So again, if it was a startup and trying to get a service or product or a project up and running, you need to be an entrepreneur. Same as if you go into an established Fortune 500 company that's a ginormous paper manufacturer, I don't know, and is trying to, adapt accordingly to maybe, let's say, consumer demand. You need more entrepreneurship there, but basically trying to understand how sustainability fits into their core mission business values. So this is 5 or 6 years ago now, went back to school. Like Ginny mentioned, about halfway through my time there, started working at Urban Rivers, which is a local startup that's building the Wild Mile, which is a super cool project you can all actually go see if you're Chicago based. If you know where the Whole Foods is off of North Avenue, it's North Avenue and Kingsbury. There is a big installation of floating garden, and I think they've installed walkway by now in the Chicago River. And what the Wild Mile is trying to be is basically this mile-long eco park, as it says, of floating gardens and walkways that are basically acting as a natural water filter for the river, while also trying to attract people and serve as a destination to help boost the river economy in that area, but also the surrounding economy, be it retail or elsewhere. This is all before COVID, mind you. So I was there for about 2 years. I interned there, and actually through the CEC, they were great enough to sponsor me for a summer internship, which then turned into the director of marketing role. And for almost 2 years now, I've been the partnership and development manager at Current, which I told you all about earlier. Earlier this year, I was very fortunate to accept the role of lecturer and director of the MSSM program at DePaul. So they mentioned, Ginny and Co mentioned I'm the director of the MSSM program, but I'm also teaching sustainable management, MGT 515, each quarter too. So that's me in a nutshell. I would love to answer questions and just keep this going. Again, very informal. So if you have anything, just blurt it out and we can just keep this going from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Whoever wants to go, just go right for it.
All right, I have a quick question. So my first question is, I guess, like when it comes to like doing good versus going into like the private sector out of school,
Sure.
Like there's that new almost like bridging of the two, like with like, I guess, what would it be called? Like social enterprise, I guess, per se.
Sure.
And I was curious, like what your thoughts were on like creating that new space of profitable companies that are doing good as their main like focus, right?
Oh man, I'm so glad you brought that up, Zach. Okay, the example I will point you to. Okay, so let me give you a little background. I've been a vegan for like 4 or 5 years, and I played football at Purdue. So I come from one of the stereotypical machismo backgrounds where it's like meat, and if you're not consuming animal protein, there's something wrong with you. Since I've become a sustainability professional, I've maintained my, athletic physique and am still living a healthy life. And again, it's being a vegan for almost 5 years now. And I became a vegan purely for sustainable reasons, because the animal agriculture industry is one of the most detrimental to our planet. Beef in particular. Let's look at beef, right? It is a tremendous waste of land and water and leads to air pollution. I have to say it's not cow farts, it's cow burps, actually. Everybody says cow farts. It is not, that is not where the methane comes from cows. They cannot fart, it's burp. Biodiversity loss, because as they clear acres and acres of land to either let these cows roam and feed them or grow the crops that they use to feed the cows. It's an extremely inefficient process. And in this, it's 2020, we have the technology to basically create that means of nutrition with that same taste and texture through alternate means. So I gave you all this why? Because I'm about to talk about plant-based meat companies like Impossible Foods or Beyond Meats. They have exploded as a business over the last couple of years. What, Beyond Meat had its IPO, what, a year ago now? And what, their stock was maybe, what, $90 or something? Oops, say again? Oh, okay.
I think somebody sneezed. Bless you.
Oh, that was a sneeze. But yeah, salud. Beyond Meat had their IPO or their stock valuation earlier this year was, let's say, $70 or so. I know for a fact it went down to 50 when the market crashed earlier this year, and now it's like up over 200. So from a business perspective, they are doing quite well. They can literally not supply grocery stores with enough of their product fast enough. They can't pop it out fast enough. And by them literally selling more patties of Beyond Meats or their Beyond sausages, whatever the case may be, they are literally doing good and being extremely successful at business, because by taking up more of the burger market with their plant-based products and pushing out in turn the animal agriculture profit and decreasing demand there, they are inherently doing good, like you asked about. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and they're probably one of the best examples I can give you, because they're succeeding at capitalism while doing good for people and planet at the same time. So yeah, that was a long answer.
So I guess like a follow-up question like to that, just like while we're on that topic, is that
Sure.
like I feel like the ideas are out there and the willingness of like younger people to approach these problems is higher than probably it's ever been. But like I think that when it comes to I guess like businesses in general, just like entrepreneurs, right? Like when they're starting, like when they're going and they're getting their first like seed round of money, like they're going and they're having to like pitch their like return on investment. And I guess like I was curious if like you had any insight or had heard anything about like if the approach was like different, right? Because like when you're going for like a business, like you're doing like a pitch. If you're going for like a nonprofit, like if you're a nonprofit and you're asking for like donations, you're doing like a different kind of pitch. And I guess like that's where like social enterprise is a little bit weird, is that like when you're starting off, like again, like you're doing it for the purpose of like you wouldn't just want to like invest in the company just for like a return on investment, like just to make money. Like you're doing it like to help people. And I guess like I was curious like your thoughts on I guess just that development in general.
So can you clarify your question a little bit more then? Are you asking like, does it make sense for businesses to be socially conscious at an early stage, or?
So I think that is like already like developing, but more so again, like this like unique social enterprise space per se. And just like how that is, like how would you go about like I guess like starting that in comparison to like I don't know, I'm opening up a restaurant and I need like money from like friends, family, and then other people that like believe in me, right? Like how would you go about it in a different way than like that?
So how would you start a social enterprise? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Or versus
Yeah.
a strictly for-profit? Well,
Correct.
okay. So I mean, it's a fair question. So you first said that millennials, Gen Zers, I'm assuming most of us on this call fall within either of those two categories. It's basically what people who are like 41 and below. We are the two most sustainably conscious generations ever. Millennials are also experiencing the largest transfer in wealth in human history from boomers to us, our parents and our grandparents who are moving along and leaving us their cash. This much has never happened ever. So what does that mean? We're coming in to power, if you will. We will be the driving economic generation for decades to come. And what by most consumer reports, I think it's roughly like 75% of millennials and Gen Zers care about sustainability in a service or product they purchase. And with that in mind, you're seeing more and more companies make the shift who are not previously sustainable, or like you said, start off with that mission in mind, being mission driven, like a B Corp or something. So I guess my answer is kind of two-pronged, because I think a lot of startups from the get-go now who may not be mission driven are still trying to incorporate sustainability however they can into their model. And I'll give you a great example that's very personal for me. My wife, she has started a fashion company within the last year, and although she's not able to do everything 100% sustainably, because there are still limitations, especially with a small budget, she does small things like purchase these compostable bags that she sends her deliveries out in to her customers. They're like, it looks like plastic. I don't know the exact material, but basically once they're disposed of, though, they will break down and not remain in the soil or ecosphere for hundreds of thousands of years, like a plastic bag would. So I think making those small decisions for, let's call them normal startups, or just solely for-profit startups, is a big difference than 10 or 15 years ago. And if you are trying to start up a social enterprise, oh man, that's such a strictly social enterprise, that's such a broad question. I mean, it really depends on your funding model, right? Because a social enterprise could technically be a nonprofit or a for-profit. So you can approach acquiring that initial capital multiple ways. I don't want anybody to be disillusioned here. I know the folks at the CEC probably have these stats more accurately than I, but your chance of getting like VC funding or angel funding, I think, is like less than 1%. So most people like who are starting up a business are asking mom and dad or their friends for loans, or figuring out some other way to start it. And so I guess it depends at the end of the day who you're trying to appeal to, who you're trying to get that money from. Be it maybe you're trying to bootstrap and sell and save up, or go to somebody for a loan. If social enterprise is really your mission, you need to tell them the story. And well, first you need to understand who they are and understand how to sell that social mission to them while showing that it can generate profitability. And if it's like a loan, you want to show them how your mission-driven business or social enterprise will get them their initial investment back within a reasonable amount of time, preferably the same amount as, say, an equal investment that's to a for-profit, or faster. And that's a point I want to make with sustainable business, is that no sustainable product or service or an alternative like a Beyond Meat burger in an ideal world, in this sustainable world, it's either the same amount of money or less as that beef patty. It cannot be more expensive or more inconvenient for the consumer. All right. Sure, you'll have a core group that is loyal to them no matter what. But if this is going to be something big and world changing, you need to connect with the masses. And for that to happen, it needs to be affordable and not inconvenient or convenient. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. No, thank you. Sorry, I know that was like a lot of jargon,
Oh.
like for if you don't know like about like social enterprise, but like that area is just like growing so much that I figured I'd pick your brain a little bit about it because that's super interesting, just like that push in general.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. Great question. So thank you for that. And if you want to chat more, please follow up. I want to be an asset to all you DePaul students, and so I'm happy to connect via Zoom now and hopefully in person in the near future, however I can.
Cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's exactly the kind of questions we were hoping for. So thank you for starting us off so well. Does anybody else have questions? Hit us.
From an international standpoint, I'm unsure what the world is, what their view is on sustainability, because I'm not quite sure. Could you inform me a little bit?
So like how sustainability is viewed around the world?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the U.S. is like in close to last place. We've got a lot of catching up to do, especially for like the economic power that we are. We're a consumer-based economy, and for the amount of consumption and pollution and degradation we initiate and contribute to, we do not do nearly enough or not our share of retribution and environmental or socially conscious acts. So if you typically when you think of sustainability leaders, you think of the continent of Europe. There are across the board leaders in different sections of sustainability who are paving the way. If you look at Germany, I think 80% of their national energy is from renewable energy. So they are a model that the United States can certainly catch up to. If you look at water innovation, Israel is one of, if not the leader there. They recycle. Okay, first off, they live in like the driest part of the world, and they have very little access to fresh water. And due to socio-political conflicts, like thousands of years of war with their neighbors, have really been forced to innovate how they supply fresh water to the people of their nation. And as a result, they've mastered desalination, which is taking salt out of water to make it consumable, right? And they also recycle, I think, 96+% of their water. So basically, what they flush down the toilet, anything that falls onto their roofs, which is not a lot, again, because they live in the desert, but they're able to recycle that wastewater into fresh water again at a rate that is over 90% of what the United States does. I think we're less than 10%. So from a sustainability standpoint, again, the United States is way far behind. And Canada, our neighbors to the north, are doing an immense amount across the board with the circular economy and waste capture, turning formerly viewed byproducts or just things in their waste streams into new and recyclable or new products and services. Oh my God! I know a hot topic or a hot brand that a lot of young people are into, based out of New Zealand, which is Allbirds. I think all of their shoe products are either completely made out of recycled single-use plastic or plant-based materials. So and they're a BCorp. So they are, again, a leader in the shoe industry and are emerging as a global trend, if you will. So that said, the United States is catching up. Look at where we were 5 or 10 years ago, and it's a complete 180 from where we are today. Google, I believe, for example, just declared that they had officially negated all of the carbon they ever generated in the past week. And similarly, oh my God, who was it? Another tech firm is either declaring or is close to a similar goal from an energy standpoint. And so you're seeing these titans of industry from in the United States, but also from a global perspective, really paving the way for sustainable business. But like I was talking about earlier, you're seeing smaller business also make that shift. And I bring this up because although we're not number one, and that's a big thing the United States always likes to tout, we're very arrogant, as is stereotypically seen. Yeah, number one, woo, America. We have a lot of opportunity, and so going back to another American part of our folklore, the West, I would consider this the Wild West of sustainability. It is the land of opportunity from a business standpoint. It's, I think, the most, it's the youngest sector and the sector with the greatest economic, I keep saying opportunity, but opportunity. I think in the next 50 years, there's at least $30 trillion or $30 to $50 trillion in sustainable business that's projected to take place. And that's from an investment standpoint and consumer goods and services standpoint. But by us shifting and frankly needing to shift to creating long-term profitability through environmentally and socially responsible business practices, we will catch up to those countries that are currently ahead of us. And so that's what's got me so excited. And DePaul similarly, DePaul's in a similar place, right? Because we are not a sustainability leader right now, frankly, in the city of Chicago. We do not have we're not committed to a sustainability plan. We do not communicate everything we do sustainability-wise well. So we've got a lot of catching up to do. But again, that's something I'm hoping to help facilitate with the help of student groups like Net Impact and the Student Government Association and like-minded faculty and staff. But we're not where we need to be. And again, a lot of opportunity and hope, and that's what's got me so excited about being in this role, because I see all the potential for DePaul and our students. And like you mentioned, Zach, this is something that young people care about, and not millennials really to a degree, but really Gen Zers are going to be the student body for DePaul for the next couple decades. So if we want to have students continue to attend DePaul and succeed and prosper in their careers, we need to catch up and get to that sustainability level that they expect. And so that's what I'm hoping to do in the coming years.
Thank you so much for that. I did want to ask a follow-up question. You mentioned B Corps, which I'm sure some of us have heard of and know about, but for those of us who are maybe new to that business model, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So B Corps it's a designation. You have to apply through, oh God, what's the company called? There are I can Google it real quick, but it's to save us some time, this organization that basically evaluates a company based on a multitude of criteria and then designates them a B Corp or not. And so companies are doing this to basically distinguish themselves from the competition, because sustainability is this new hot word, like organic was 15 years ago. You know, a couple brands came out at the grocery store with organic, and all of a sudden you see it everywhere. And organic now has a very loose meaning, because a lot of things. Oh, B Lab. Thank you, Jenny. B Lab is the company that does the B Corp certification. Organic became what's called greenwashed, where the initial small players who were doing it for the right reasons and doing it correctly by growing something naturally without synthetic pesticides or other chemicals. Then the larger players realized the market opportunity there and started to simply incorporate it when it wasn't true at all. And now it's really been kind of watered down. And so if you really want to find something that's organic, you kind of need to do your research, which is pretty sad because even USDA standards are not great indicators of if something's actually organic. And I'll give you a great example. If you own a farm and you want to grow organic corn, let's say, you can acquire manure from your next door neighbor, from their cows, that as long as that manure fell from a cow and has not been treated otherwise, it will be considered organic. However, the cows can consume all kinds of hormones and synthetic antibiotics and other chemicals throughout their entire lives, which are obviously passed through their waste system into their feces, and that manure that will then be distributed across your crops and that your corn will absorb, and undoubtedly it will accumulate within, but that corn would still be considered organic. So the restrictions and regulations are super loose. And so I bring this up because sustainability is in a similar place, right? You had the early players who started off saying, oh yes, our products and services are sustainable, purchase them, we're doing this for the environment or for a particular community group, whatever their mission spoke to. And again, now corporate America's caught on, and you're seeing a lot of things that aren't really sustainable being called sustainable. And so to distinguish themselves, companies like Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's, Allbirds, like I mentioned, are going to B Corp and saying, hey, here's all of our business information. We still think we are doing things well and sustainably. We are making money, but we want to put the environment and society first. Help us distinguish ourselves from the herd. And so they are, B Corp's looking through all of their financial and business criteria and saying, okay, you know what? You are different than the rest of corporate America or the world, and we will give you this designation, and that will then in turn show that you are a committed and legitimate leader. And so that's why you're seeing the term B Corp really take off, because more and more brands now are trying to go for this certification and are really leading the way for economic change. They are the pioneers in this new economic model that says we can and frankly need to conduct business in a sustainable manner if we want to still be around as a species in the next 100+ years. We need to make significant change. We cannot continue on this linear business path of mine, consume, throw away, repeat, right? We need to make it more circular. And so they're making that really great business case for the circular economy, which is sustainable business at its essence. So it's a great question, Ginny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's a great description. That's what I learned as well. Some fun facts. Athleta is a company that is a B Corp. I bought this there. And Flowers for Dreams is a local B Corp that's a flower shop. So
I know
flowers,
go for high school with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I heard him speak, and that's how I got into sustainable and impact business. Is I was like, what is this? Who is this now? So that's the founder of Flowers for Dreams is how I got here today.
Ah, very cool, very cool. I mean, you're seeing just a lot of businesses realize that we can't continue on the path we're on simply because their supply chains will dry out in the near future if they keep consuming at the rate they are. The fishing industry is a great example of that. There's very little regulation on international fishing, and as a result, we've depleted every fishable population by well beyond sustainable levels, and they're crashing. And that's only being amplified by warmer and more acidic oceans from climate change and microplastics in the water. You know, it's a vicious cycle. And you're starting to see more and more manufacturers of fish products and just fisheries in general try to implement sustainable business or practices. And the great example I always provide is the Maine fishing or Maine lobster industry. They're like one of the earliest sustainable industries in the world. In fact, they almost completely overfished the lobster population in the East Coast a few decades ago, and came together and said, okay, well, if we want to keep selling lobster in Maine and the East Coast, we need to change something. And they put in these great regulations where they only catch lobsters who are within a certain size. If they're too small, they throw them back so they can grow and continue to populate. Or if they're too big, they're a keystone reproductor. And so they realized that this lobster that size, which they can live like hundreds of years, are too essential to the continued population. So they throw them back. And as a result, the industry's been thriving. That said, they did literally just lose their sustainable certification because a few endangered right whales, I believe, a few of them were tangled up in the traps and died. And since they're endangered, it's an issue that's taken very seriously. So they're trying to get that certification back. But I would say from like a holistic business perspective, they're a great model to look at.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Are you all MSSM students or curious about sustainability just in general? Curious? Cool. All right, wonderful.
I had a quick question. Should we be advocating for government subsidies for like sustainability foods to get their costs to be reduced? Because I feel like that's the only feasible way they can get their costs reduced that much available to the mass market.
I mean, that's not my field of expertise, but I think that's a good start. Farming in general is a pretty backward industry. I know most farmers, even if they're not trying to do it sustainably, rely mostly on subsidies to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm. GMOs actually cost less, right? Yeah.
Say again?
I think GMOs actually cost less than like buying an actual organic crop. Yeah.
No, that's probably the case across the board. Simply because they're more mass manufactured and they're usually produced by factory farms, which again is a whole other problem in itself. You know, small farmers and family farms have been like absolutely decimated across the country. And man, you're gonna set me off on a tangent now. There are things like monoculture, which is basically growing the same crop for miles and miles and miles, is really endangering the sector because all it's going to take is a pest or some sort of disease to wipe out all of those crops. And that's an ever-growing threat, especially as bacteria and bugs adapt to GMO counter, genetics, if you want to call them that. You know, they're becoming immune to the Monsanto pesticides, and they are they're evolving at such a rapid rate because they're such small organisms that the genetic repellents that are in these corns are wearing off faster than they were previously. So crop diversity is a big thing. Making sure you don't just have the same crop in one area. Using like no-till agriculture is another big thing because that reduces erosion, and ensuring that you're doing it in an area that makes sense. And I say that because in the Midwest, we are, especially the Great Lakes region, we've seen a 10% increase in precipitation over the last 100 years. That's compared to 4% nationally. And that's only projected to get worse. And if you've been in Chicago the last 2 springs, you've witnessed the 2 wettest springs on record. The Chicago River, I don't know if you remember, in June, flooded to record levels in like a 24-hour period after torrential downpours. And the Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes are at record levels as well. It's up 6 feet in the last decade and is predicted to raise another 3 feet in the next decade. So flooding is going to become a bigger and bigger problem for the farming industry, because it's just simply going to wash away the soil or the crops that are there near waterways. And I know that, again, due to these record spring rain events, the farmers in Illinois and the Midwest in the Mississippi watershed are really feeling that impact, because they just simply haven't been able to either grow their crops, or their crops and livelihood is getting washed away each year with these heavy rains. So sustainable agriculture is certainly needed, because it typically, what they do is they will plant crops that are more resilient to drought and flooding and don't need synthetic pesticides and whatnot to simply grow and survive. The plants in themselves they have those natural evolutionary deterrents to keep bugs and other pests away. So more of that, I think, is certainly needed in the United States and elsewhere. How that gets implemented is a bigger question than I'm prepared to answer, because, like I said, it's a super complicated and important industry. And then the last thing I'll say on that is just, we need to figure out how to grow food better in the United States, because each year 40 to 50% of what we grow is just thrown away. It's not composted. It's not given to those in need. It's just dumped. And you saw it at the start of the pandemic this year, all those dairy farmers just dumping out their milk because it was going to bring down market prices to help them sell more milk. Like, that is pathetic, and that is sad. And that's something severely wrong with not only just farming, but like how our economy works if we're doing that. And so solutions to problems like this are needed, because there's going to be more and more unexpected catastrophes like pandemics or hurricanes or flood events that we need to figure out now, because they're here. Climate change is not something that's going to happen. It's here. It's now. Like, that's something that I feel too many people are still confused about. They're like, oh yeah, it's something my kids will have to worry about. No, it's happening now. Look at the wildfires out west, the record hurricanes we're seeing in the southeast, and the flooding in the Midwest. So, did that answer your question?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that a handful of you are not sustainability students, because I've got a bunch in my class who are on the same line as you. They are work in HR, they work in accounting, whatever, and they're just curious about how they could maybe implement something sustainably in their line of work down the road. And that's what we need. We need people like you who are curious and see that this is a need, and that there is opportunity to do so in the near future. And that's something I like to preach too, is that you don't need to be a sustainability professional to do something sustainably. And in fact, we need sustainability, if it's going to succeed, needs to be implemented in literally every aspect of business: finance, accounting, HR, engineering, everything. If we are going to, again, thrive as a human population and a planet, needs to become sustainable in the next 10 years, really, before we reach the point of no return. So I'm just glad to be talking to young folks like yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Any further questions? I think we have time for one more, perhaps.
I have a good question. So I looked at your LinkedIn, and I just saw how you you had so many different like roles, project manager, you were like in the Fields Museum as an intern, like you're working here in Chicago at Current, then you were at another company. And so I guess my question is like, how did you find these opportunities, and
Sure.
like, how did you get internships? Like, what advice do you have for us? Like, yeah.
Sure. Great question. Yeah, I would say the first part of my career is pretty stereotypical millennial in the fact that I think on average we stay at jobs for like a year and a half in the first 10 years of our careers. We're hoppers, and I think that's fine. It's also due to like the just crazy economic situation we've been thrust into with the 2008 recession and now this recession and everything in between. So I would encourage you all to network your asses off, because even though it's 2020 and we live in a digital world, it's all about who you know still. Even probably more so than before, with most submissions being done digitally and online. If you know somebody at that company who can just simply pull your resume out of the pack and skip that algorithm filtration system that the company probably has, that's looking for just keywords in your resume, you have a much more likely chance of just getting an interview, and then obviously your prospects of getting that job, shoot through the roof. So just keep talking to people in your sector. DePaul is, I think, in such a great position because so many of our alum just simply live in the Chicagoland area. 80% of graduates stay in the Chicagoland region. So that means how many folks are on here? 12. So at 9-ish of you will be staying in the region, presumably once you graduate. That means that there's a lot of us to help you out. And I know that a lot of the DePaul alumni I've connected with who don't work in sustainability are very eager to help current students succeed. So look for them on LinkedIn. Nowadays you can't really go for coffee, but when it's safe again, invite them out. But for the time being, connect on LinkedIn and try to Zoom with them for 30 minutes and just, pick their brain and ask them about them, and put your foot in the door, because if you become familiar with them and a job opens up that you might be a candidate for, you'll be surprised how often they'll be like, oh yeah, Jenya, she was the one I got coffee with on that cold October day. I think she could be a good candidate. Those things matter. So make an impact however you can. How else? Be just ever aware of those keywords, like I mentioned, that are important for your career. Put them on your LinkedIn page and in your resume. Take out any jargon. Like keep evolving that document as like I would say on like a monthly basis. As to how I got my jobs, it was through networking like that. And when my jobs in sustainability, oh man, Net Impact was not around when I was at DePaul. So you guys you have a leg up over me. Sustainability in general was like, the MSSM program was not around. So there's a lot more resources for folks who are interested in that career path. And so what I basically had to do was I actually leveraged the CEC and got into the sustainability sector through the entrepreneurial world, and just was like, hey, founder, CEO, can we talk? Can we connect? And finally was able to connect with people who worked in an area that I cared about to then, start that career. And that's, like I said, the CEC internship program is how I got the gig with Urban Rivers, and that's evolved since that. So be creative is what my point. Be creative as to how you find your way into potential networking and job scenarios, because it might not be nearly as straightforward as you think. So be nice to people you don't know when even if you might not see the immediate need in speaking with them, because they might be able to connect you with somebody at their office or at a friend and a colleague who might be able to help you down the road. So those are, I would say, are my two biggest pieces of advice for people like yourself looking for gigs. Oh, last one, be passionate. Show that you care. Oh my God. I cannot tell you how many people I've interned or interviewed who are just going through the motion on the phone or in person. I've heard interviewer or interviewees say, oh yeah, I'm just here because I need a job. Like, what are you? No, of course we're not going to hire you if that's your answer. Show whatever you're focused on, that you care about it and you want to actually help them and succeed and conduct better business. That will go so far for you, because I don't know why, but there are just way too many millennials and Gen Zers now who are unenthusiastic and who don't care, and they're doing themselves a disservice. Oh my God, yeah. Show that passion, and you will stand out from the crowd.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thank you so much. Because like right now, I know like the career fair will be like soon in October. So I'm like thinking about all these ideas, and like I'm finally figuring out like what I'm passionate about, which is like sustainability, but also like training and like HR. And so I love your passion on here. Like you've been incredible with all the questions. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you. Any final questions? I know we're at time here. Awesome. Well, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say thank you.
No, I was going to wrap things up, which I'm sure was your goal as well. So that we're at about 6 o'clock now. So I think that'll finish us out for today. But I want to thank all of our participants for coming in and bringing their questions and their interest in impact and sustainability. I want to thank the Coleman Entrepreneurship Center, Aparna and Bruce, for partnering in this event. And of course, I want to thank George Brigandi for coming in and sharing his insight and all of your knowledge and your thorough examination. You'll have to tell us how you learned all of these incredible things about sustainability. We need a reading list immediately.
It takes time, and I'm still learning. Although I'm teaching things, oh my God, the sector, like I said, is so young, but it is evolving faster than you can imagine. You know, a textbook that you got in accounting from 1970 would be more accurate and representative of probably what accounting is like today than a article from 2018 regarding sustainability then and what it is now. The science and the data are evolving at such a fast pace. It's a consistent effort to stay caught up, which is exciting, but also super stressful, because you're like, oh no, am I not up to date on everything? So again, I want you all to take me up on this. If this is something you care about and want to just talk about, please reach out. I'm happy to continue to chat offline and be an asset however I can. I care a lot about DePaul, and I want to see you all succeed, especially if you care about sustainability. So thank you all again. Great questions. It was good to chat. And thank you, Net Impact and CEC. Continue the work you're doing, and I want to help you all as well. So we're in contact on the side. You already know how it is. But it's great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the same goes for us at Net Impact. We want to hear from our members. We want to hear about events you are interested in having, topics you are interested in hearing about, professionals that you would like to hear from, anything that you're interested in when it comes to impact or sustainability. We want to provide you with those resources, those contacts, and hopefully a myriad of ways to be more sustainably minded in your career, so that we have a planet to do business on for the years and generations to come.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Take it easy, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
All right, leadership team, stay on.
Okay.
Hi,
George,
guys.
you can stay on too. Oh, he left.
Looks like she might be frozen, possibly.